All right, we are recording, and Jenny and I are here today to talk about the new moon, which happens. When does it happen, Jenny?
It happens on July 20th.
July 20th,
Yeah,
2020, and it is, I think, at 28 degrees Cancer. Is that right?
that sounds correct. Yes.
Okay. So before we look at the chart of this lunation, we are going to just talk a little bit about what the new moon is, what the new moon
hmm
means.
hmm
So, the new moon happens once a month when the sun and the moon come together in the same position. So they are, whenever there's a new moon, they are always at the same degree of the same sign. And if you know that the sun is currently in Cancer, as most of us are pretty familiar with the dates of, Cancer season, Leo season, etc. So if you know that it's that we're in Cancer season and you know that a new moon is coming, then you're going to know it's a new moon in Cancer. So the
hmm
tricky thing about this month is that we have two Cancer new moons this month, and that does not happen very frequently. You can usually count on a Cancer new moon being followed by a Leo new moon, followed by a Virgo new moon, etc. How come we've got two in Cancer this month, Jenny?
Sheesh, to mess us up. No, it's just the way it works out because we have 365 days in a year, not 360. And somewhere along the line, you got to pick up the slack of those 5 days. So it plays out in different ways. So in this case, we're just happening to see a new moon in Cancer twice. Now, what it does mean is that it was barely, barely, barely in Cancer at the last new moon. And now we're at the end of Cancer. So they're both in Cancer, but they're opposite ends of the sign, and that means that they have different aspects with other planets in the chart, which we will look at.
Right.
So that's why we have it.
Yeah. And one thing, to clarify is that each sign has 30 degrees. The sun moves 1 degree a day. So yeah, I think the most recent new moon was at 0 degrees Cancer. Is that right?
Yeah,
And
that's
the one
correct.
that we're talking about now is at 28 degrees. So
Yeah.
yeah, the moon is a 28-day cycle. So that makes sense. It was the first day the sun had moved into Cancer, and now we're at 28 days later.
hmm
So are we ready to open the chart itself?
Yeah, let's take a look at it.
Okay, let's take a look at it. Let's see. Um, huh. Okay, here it is. I've got too many things open
There
on
it
my
is.
desktop. Okay,
It never happens.
so
Okay, look at that.
here it is. Look at that. So there you see the sun and the moon at 28 degrees Cancer. And if we think about, when we look at a chart like this, you know that all the planets are moving counterclockwise. So as the moon approached the sun, it was coming up this way. The last new moon was, like we said, at 0 degrees Cancer, so it was right over here at the very beginning of the sign. And
hmm
from that time till now, it's gone all the way around and bumped into all the planets. What has it most recently been interacting with, Jenny? And what does that tell us?
Well, you'll notice the cluster of Capricorn planets down at the bottom of the chart here.
Our good
So,
Capricorn friend.
yeah. So our set of Capricorn planets that are representing so much of what we're dealing with in 2020, with the pandemic, but also civil unrest and all of these things that are coming to light about the way government is run and all of these different pieces. So that's what you're seeing. And every time we look at a chart, we're seeing where is the moon interacting with those things. So in this case, the moon, right before it hit the sun, it opposed those planets. So it opposed Jupiter and it opposed Pluto, and it will hit Saturn right after the new moon, because you can see it
Right
still
after,
red.
right after, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, I always think of like the xylophone, like bing, 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 you know? So
Yeah.
it like it, but before it even hit those things, it trined Neptune. Neptune is over there in Pisces at 20 degrees.
Who did that? Hold on.
Yeah.
Draw that one in. Okay,
You gotta
so
do a blue.
so first it bumped into Jupiter and Pluto, or
Mhm.
actually before that, because this is at 20 degrees. So
Yeah.
first it trined Neptune, didn't it?
Yeah, and we're not going back too far. We're just talking about the same day. So basically, it trine Neptune, which is a harmonious aspect with Neptune, and I keep seeing Neptune is being involved in one way or another with a lot of these lunations. So I just keep thinking of like we have to think about the collective, all of our actions. We're thinking about the bigger picture of all of us being together. There's other ways to look at it, but that's just one simple way to look at it. Then so trine Neptune, and then it said hello to Jupiter and Pluto, and then Saturn after. So those are the bells being rung by this lunation,
Yeah.
basically. So there you go.
So what is it? What is it? All right.
Is it saying?
Yeah. What are those little dings doing? It's like
Yeah.
waking. It's it's in Cancer, so it's about protection and nurturance
Mm-hmm.
and taking care of and love.
Mm-hmm.
And is it? I think of the opposition as just awareness, the importance
Mm-hmm.
of awareness.
Yeah.
So that possibly one idea in thinking about this is, we've got 2 new moons in Cancer. Maybe we need an extra dose of waking up to this need of love and care and protection.
Yep. I like that. That makes a lot of sense. And just the simplest of senses, like how do we take care of ourselves, each other? And because with that Neptune in there, it is about everybody. It's about considering everybody, not just our own individual needs. And I think a lot of what we're seeing is how do we move away from selfishness? How do we move away from individualism in the sense that you think you can exist alone in a vacuum? And like, we can't. We all need each other. Relationships are really important to our existence as humans. So I just feel like that those are the bells that seem to just keep being rung over and over again, like during this time in 2020. And like what we're seeing, and then what new seeds can you plant, because it's a new moon. So that's where we bring in that idea of it's the very beginning of a new cycle. So that whole thing we talk about planting a seed, so that what seeds do you want to plant so you can see something grow? What do you want to see grow?
Right. What way can you use those qualities of Cancer, the protection, the caring, nurturing? How can you develop your own awareness of that as a contribution to helping what's going on around you and on the planet and in your communities and etc. So thinking about it like that,
Mm-hmm.
make sure you've got your chart in front of you in whole sign houses and find where Cancer is in your chart.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to look for that symbol of Cancer. Always go counterclockwise, and when you come to that symbol, it's the house following that symbol is the area of your life where you're going to want to consider, what am I being directed to plant a seed to develop as a nurturing, supportive element for my community, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I was thinking as we're using this analogy of planting a seed, it's almost like you can think of those planets that are opposing it, the Jupiter, Pluto, and Saturn. It's almost like thinking like, what things do I need to put into my soil mix to make the seed grow properly? Like, where do I need to put it in my garden? What nutrients will it need? Like, those are kind of ways you can think about it metaphorically. That's what was kind of coming up for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I guess you can think of different themes, like where does Cancer fall in your chart, Laurie?
For me, it falls in my 11th house.
Okay, so groups, humanitarian
Community.
causes,
Yeah.
hopes and wishes. community. Yeah. So,
Yeah, so planting a seed of bringing that protective nurturance quality to the community.
mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. I think
Yeah,
that suits you.
that suits me fine. And how
Yeah.
about you? Where does it fall for you?
For me, it's in my first house, and so
Yeah.
I keep thinking about this thing of like I'm in a phase of where I've got to do the work on myself, so I know how to share that with other people. So right now, it's like the taking care of me, so that I'm paying attention in terms of self care, and then
Hmm.
what can like down the road, I feel like that's going to inform how I work with people more and more. So.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. As you're saying that, I'm thinking about that opposition and thinking, doing the personal care for you in the first house, doing that
Mhm.
personal care to protect and nurture yourself allows that. No, I can't. The way it came into my mind was so perfect, and then it drifted
Yeah.
almost
Well,
immediately. But there's something about that that allows you, the strength that the self nurturance brings you allows you to not be overwhelmed by
right.
that opposing incredible force of
Yeah.
those hard Capricorn planets, which do so much represent the government, all the hard stuff that's going on. Big
Mhm.
business, big government is such Capricorn stuff.
Yeah. Well, you're
So yeah,
making
that self-nurturance
yeah.
supports you in not being overwhelmed. And for me, that bringing that nurturance to the community allows me to not be overwhelmed on this much more personal level.
Mhm.
For me. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So
Well, it
when you find in your own chart, wherever it is in your chart, think about the polarity, because it's the connection to these planets that is really significant as well. The work that you're doing, the seed that you're planting, is to support, I would say, not becoming overwhelmed by the uglier factors going on in the world.
Well, you're reminding me of the recent astrology podcast with Chris Brennan that talked about radical self-care and what that means. And what it means is that if you are able to take care of yourself on a fundamental level, then you are able to be a much better resource to the people around you. So, even if you're like a parent and you have, children, it's like if you take care of yourself to that degree, you're much more available and have a lot more resource available to others. So there's an interplay there. And that I really enjoyed that radical self-care thing, and I want to read more about it. But that's what it implied. It's not. It allows you to be part of a community and take care of yourself, but you're not separate from it. So
Interesting.
yeah.
Interesting. Cool.
So see where
All
it falls
right.
in your chart and see what you think.
Say that again. Oh,
I was
yeah.
just saying to people, take a look and see what you
Yeah.
think about where you're planting those seeds of nurturance and protection. So
Yeah. And be sure you do the new moon ritual. It's, you can find it on my website or the posts that I do on the day of the new moon. And if that particular ritual doesn't highly resonate with you, find one that does. I mean, different people do different kind of rituals, but you know, a lot of people do a ritual at the new moon and at the full moon. I don't bother doing one at the full moon because I feel like, the full moon is an illumination of what you plant now. The new
mhm.
moon, you plant the seed. The full moon is the illumination. I feel like the ritual is really most significant at the new moon. And the other thing that we haven't mentioned, which I think is always a good thing to remember, is that there's the 1 month cycle, which in
Mhm.
2 weeks we come to the full moon, but then in 6 months we come to the full Cancer moon. How's that
Yeah.
going to work with this 2 in a month?
Right. Well, the, I know. Well, that's actually going to be December 29th will be, yeah, and there's just one. So you get, basically you just get 2 opportunities to plant seeds at either end
Or
of
the
the
same
Cancer
full
spectrum.
moon.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So that's cool. So the new moon we had a month ago and the new moon we had here share the same full moon in 6 months?
Yeah.
Wow, I like that because that gives you all that much more to put toward this.
It's
I wonder
interesting.
where
Well,
we'll be in December.
I know. And then the other thing, the 2-week cycle you mentioned, that's going to be August 3rd, and that full moon is going to be in Aquarius. So that is going to be different than having, you would expect to have a, Capricorn full moon after Cancer. So it's just kind of, it's sort of like skipping a notch or something. It's like taking you right into the Aquarius signification, which is going to be much more about innovation and humanitarian causes and trying to think progressively and be a little more ahead of your time. So it's an interesting way to think of nurturing and protection, kind of culminating in that.
I like that.
A more detached version. And then the 6-month cycle is right after the holiday season, which we don't really know where we're going to be at that time yet, and we're going to find out. A lot is going to have shifted by then.
Yeah,
so
it'll be interesting for sure with the Mars retrograde and all of that that's going on. So okay. Oh, I just see this. Oh, that Mars by this new moon is at 12 degrees Aries. It's coming.
Still going to be in Aries.
It's going to be there for a long time. Get used to it.
Yeah.
So, okay, I think, is that everything we needed to touch on?
Yeah. I think that's good. I mean, I think the continued message is to be well and to work with nurturing and taking care of yourself and others around you.
Yeah, that protection thing, protection, nurturance, all those good things of Cancer. Love. It's all about love. Cancer is all about learning to truly love. I think that's a big part. And always remember, Cancer is a much stronger sign than people tend to give it credit for.
Yeah, I mean, it's the sign associated with vulnerability, and facing your vulnerabilities and being open about those is one of the most courageous acts you can do. Yeah. So it's powerful, and the moon is powerful in Cancer. Yeah. It's pretty happy there. So, well, good.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Jenny, for meeting with me and talking about this exciting new moon. And we'll talk again in 2 weeks for the Aquarius full moon.
Sure will. All right.
Thank you
Thanks,
so
everybody.
much. Bye-bye.